Seeing nothing further, we'll move on to the old business at hand. Life safety items, capital improvements, and specifically where we have a life safety amendment number 21. I believe we will ask for action on that, beginning on approximately page 102.
Resolved that the Board of Education, Township High School District 208, Cook County, Illinois, hereby approves the Life Safety Amendment 21 as presented and discussed in the December 27, 2016 Board Agenda Packet.
Second.
Second.
Who's second?
Tim
Mr.
Walsh.
Walsh, thank you. Mr. Cindy, thank you. Discussion, Doctor?
Okay,
We kind
so-
of talked about this in the past, right?
Yeah, I went over this pretty much in the past. The first document that's behind Marianne, the resolution, is just the stuff from Kerry. It has to be submitted to the state after this. More importantly, on 107, starts to lay out the three proposals from W.R. Weiss and Company. They are the same people that do a lot of the stone, marble, granite work down in the city of Chicago. They redid one of the museums downtown. They're very well known, considered to be experts in this field. The first, option one, most expensive option, is $102,000. Has to fully remove and replace. This does not include a $10,000 allowance in the event that any of the panels break, so that would be $112,000.
I can't support this.
And just let me go, and it also does not include probably, an additional $10,000-15,000 to put the ribbon, the concrete around it and do some of the engineering. Option two, $56,000, would be support the pieces with brackets and wall and through the stone, of like kind of rosettes, pinning them to the wall, and putting brackets underneath them the best that we could. It's only $56,000. We still would need the $10,000 allowance in the event. This is not to exceed, but we'd still have a $10,000 allowance for panel breaking or unforeseen conditions, and then we would still need some additional money for the rest of the RFP, like for if there's any masonry type pointing or the concrete ribbon to be put underneath. The option we selected to go for the amendment was $70,000. Now, what we're going to do is we take the four bottom panels. I don't have the pictures in this packet. If you remember from last week, basically it's taking off the bottom row of the granite panels, installing a curb so that they sit directly on their own concrete curb, and re-adhering them as the newer way to adhere panels, and then just doing the remaining panels all with pins and rosettes. So this one would probably be closer to like the 85, roughly, with all unforeseen conditions and what Kerry put in the life safety amendment. Now, what I'm recommending to the board is that we pass the life safety amendment on this number tonight. So that gives me the flexibility to have the life safety amendment if this comes out to be the best option. The second thing that I am waiting for, and hopefully we'll have it by the end of this week, but we'll probably need to make a decision before the next board meeting, is I've asked for an RFP if we removed all the granite and just bricked the front of the school, just basically bricked all this in, or did facial brick, and maybe save the one panel that said 1952, clean it up, maybe etch it down, create like a commemorative portion or a cornerstone for it, and then the rest would be done in brick. The one thing that we don't exactly have an understanding for, and this is why we need an RFP, and we need the engineer and a mason to look at it, is we need to make sure these panels are only out, and I'm probably wrong on this, so let's just use general numbers. If these panels are only like 3/4 of an inch thick, or 3/7 inch thick, a brick is slightly thicker. And so what they're worried about is that if we can't find the right brick to fit in there, that it could mess with the storefront, especially on the west side where the envelope comes together a lot tighter and there's not as much room. Also over the handicap ramp, which is on the east side of where kind of the granite bends out above it. So there's some studying and things need to be looked at to see. Joe also agreed that we should look at the brick number, because if the brick number's half of this and the board's comfortable with taking down the granite, then I'll have the flexibility to say, okay, go ahead and proceed with the brick number for half the cost, or save the district 20 or 30,000. The two things I need from you tonight is, one, to have the life safety amendment approved, that if the brick number comes back even higher than this, I obviously will go with this. And the second thing would be, what are your limits? Or what are my, more or less how much to spend? I mean, if the brick number comes in 20,000 less, am I going with brick? What's my cutoff point?
I'm just gonna speak personally, and I did not go to RB, so I don't necessarily think of the granite as, you know, something that defines the school. I think keeping the one panel is great, so I would prefer to go that route if it's significantly less. That's just my personal opinion.
I have a couple of questions. One is well, we use these estimates, but she's suggesting the amendment be for 84.6. So how do we come up with that number?
So, whenever you submit a life safety amendment, there's also 10% then for architectural and engineering, and
Right.
10% for unforeseen
Oh,
conditions.
20%,
So
okay.
20%.
And, but if we submitted for this, for the 84.6, are we, with these proposals, can we use a different alternative to do the repair?
Okay, so, I talked to Carrie today. Board approves it, we get the numbers back, we decide to go with the brick option. Carrie and I need to just contact the state, and I need to reject something in my Iowa system in the state, and they can pull the amendment.
But can't we, even if we needed to do brick, isn't it still life safety?
She does not believe it's life safety. She's not even sure this is going to get passed as life safety. Remember, the board has to approve the amendment, then it gets submitted
Right.
for approval to the state. What she's trying to prove to the state is that these panels
Can
can
fall
now
down
fall
and
off
hit
the
people.
wall.
That seems pretty
What
unsafe. but-
she's not sure if they'll say that, well, that was that,
Okay.
we didn't take the proper measurements to, when we were doing demo of the concrete areas. That's how she's trying to sell it, as you see in her explanation.
Got it.
So, anybody want, are we looking anything less than 20%, 25%?
Well, are we gonna get a mock-up of the brick? I mean, so we could,
Well, we gotta make sure, we would wanna try to address some of this before the weather fully changes. So if the mock-up would be that we would just match the face brick on the rest of the building. This is the only part of the building that has these granite panels. So they would just match the brick and make sure everything else matches.
Any significance to the panel for those who went here?
No, I'd like to save them. The other question is, will the granite last longer than the brick? And is there any extra maintenance on the brick? I mean, you'd have to incorporate that into your cost.
It's pretty shielded from the weather, though, John. It's because it's
Majority
sunk
it
in.
is under a storefront.
All right, so it wouldn't, if you fix the granite, it would last another 60 years or
Forever.
whatever.
Would last forever.
Who's on the advisory council?
Matt and Tim,
Why don't they come and,
I've been keeping them in
Except
the
they use to
loop.
decide. I suggest you go with I support the concept opposed to to keep the original architectural design. But if it's, if the brick is half, maybe we shouldn't do it. So, some percentage, 20 or 25% lower on the brick, then we probably
What
should
other
consider
decision I
that.
decide to make, I will make sure I talk it through with the advisory council and keep them in the loop. I've been sending them, I sent them these last week when I got these, and so,
Maybe we could get a consensus if the brick is
that's what I'm
more
trying
than
to get.
25% below the granite, we at least have to consider the brick or something like that.
yeah.
And if it's not, if it's less than 25% differential, that we go with the granite,
I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
something along that line.
How's that?
All right.
what if they did, as you said, the bottom with the granite on its own little curve, and that would have been appropriate, and then the top with the brick?
That's what they're waiting for the bid to come back.
We didn't start mixing and matching
Okay.
options, so number 3 is just to refix the
Okay.
bottom and then keep the rest where they're at and just pin them to the wall with
I see.
like decorative rosettes.
Well, if it's less than 25% cheaper, bring it to us and let us,
So we're going off the 70,500?
Yeah.
I would use 10,000 on, because
So
for
we're
the allowance, so
talking
80,000.
$18,000 difference.
I would say 80.
Well, it's 84.6 is the amendment.
I would go
so
off the life safety amendment.
I'd
Right.
go off the
Well, I mean, we're
84.6.
going off without the 10 plus the 10.
Right,
They have 10%.
so a quarter of that is
I've got the number.
21,000 or something.
Yeah.
I use 20,000 as a number. Is that fair for everybody?
So
Yeah.
60,
If the savings is more than 20,000,
that's
Go.
fine,
I'm in a good place to go with
You're in a
something
good
different.
place.
yes.
Yeah,
But can we, I mean, we're gonna meet in 2 weeks. I mean, could we theoretically vote on this, or does it have to?
You got weather coming in pretty soon, you gotta start
Well,
working on it.
I'm asking, Matt, I didn't ask you, please.
What I'm trying to say is that the longer we wait, the longer that this is gonna be. I'd rather you guys vote on this tonight or discuss it more tonight and get a consensus vote.
Because this whole, John,
So what we're saying is if brick comes in under
Our CM
under $50,000, we're saying we're going brick. Is that?
Our CM seems to think that brick could come in cheaper. We should be able to get a pretty significant savings. Our architect wants to confirm that the brick will not expand the storefront to create any
Okay.
kind of problems.
I mean, there are certain, I think John wants to go to granite, so I think his differential in price is bigger than the 25%.
That's
John,
what
To be at, if we're saying bricks coming in at 50 versus, or 50 versus 84, I think in John's mind, he said he'd rather go with the 84, right? I'm not
Well,
words in your mouth, because you want to keep the old.
Can we get like a picture of the thing? I mean, I understand the weather and all that stuff, but
All
I'd
that
rather
will
have
take,
the-
yeah,
I'd rather have the data and like a picture of it, and then, okay.
Listen,
Sorry, that's just how I feel.
here's the deal. 7 board members, John wants a picture. If John gets 3 more board members say they want a picture, I'll have the architect draw a picture. But I need to pay the architect to draw a picture, and it's gonna take some time to draw the picture. So I mean, that could push it to where it might not fall within the vote of next meeting. Now we're waiting to the cow. So this all might take till the vote of next meeting anyway.
I think it probably will. I'm concerned about the comment about the brick expanding and all this other stuff. I'm worried about, not fully thinking it through as well.
But you need the vote just so you can submit the life safety.
Yeah, and I'm fine
And
with
it can
that.
change.
I think we got consensus that can go in.
Yes.
right?
Yes, that's fine.
Sure.
And in that process, if the brick comes back and it's less than 20 or 25,000, I'm hearing from you, go with the brick.
right, no, with the
While we're with the granite.
Right.
We don't even,
Right,
I don't need to do renderings or anything, we could just, because it's basically keeping it as is, but pinning it to the wall with, right? Am I hearing that correctly?
Yes.
Yes.
So if we stick with the granite,
Then you're all right.
we're okay.
yes.
It's if the brick comes back significantly less,
Yes.
then we would want to have
Yeah,
more
I guess I'm just saying, maybe 25% isn't the threshold. Maybe it's more like
50%,
35,
33.
40% differential in order to move it off of a granite.
Why don't you just have him bid it out and then see how big the difference is? He can let Tim and me know.
We would not bid it out because that would take an additional 10 days. So since
Okay.
this is under the the subcontractor and it's going through, so it's like an additional, it's an add-on.
Okay.
And the thing for John, is this holding up doing the rest of the concrete work so we can open
It
the
is.
front entrance?
Yeah.
It also is
that's
holding up
important.
pouring the
And
stairs.
the weather's getting cold.
Yeah, that's
Yep.
important.
So once we get to a certain point, then we can't pour the stairs.
Right. And the other question I had on it is, we talked about some other amendments to life safety. Is there a reason that we're not presenting those at the same time, or we could do them however we want?
We could do them however we want.
Okay.
The idea that I worked out with the construction manager and architect, this totally being aside, was we were gonna wrap up the gym project, get through
Okay.
first punch, and then in November, start presenting the amendments to the board.
Okay.
Because we're not going for additional life safety bonds till December of 17.
Right.
Those other bonds come callable, so we had a little time.
Okay. Thank you.
So
Is that clear as mud?
granted it is, unless there's some significant savings.
Fair.
And then you'll bring it back.
Okay?
Fair.
All right, we got a motion on it.
Okay, can we go for the vote, Mary Ann?
Mr. Ritchie?
Yes.
Mr. Costa?
Yes.
Mr. Justin?
Yes.
Dr.
Yes.
Mr. Cindy?
Yep.
Mr. Walsh?
Yes.
Yes. Does that conclude that area?
That's good.
LaGrange District 102 withdraw from LADSI from the 8/9/16 board meeting.
So hold till October, I have a board of directors meeting and coming up next week.